Hey guys, I'm here to bring you a top secret video of things you shouldn't even know, but you're gonna know anyway. Hooked? Okay, I'm trying to get views. Alright, we're gonna make a C++ program with Visual Studio Code. This is a question I get a lot, and it's how do you manage a C++ project with all the build, run, and get all your buttons and stuff with Visual Studio Code. And yeah, okay, I guess my camera's reflected. I don't know where I'm pointing. Alright, let's launch Visual Studio Code. We're gonna do it. So, prerequisites, you're going to need some kind of C++ compiler. Doesn't really matter what kind. I'm going to use the Visual Studio one, which is MS Build. And I have a previous video that explains that some in section 3. I'll try to remember to link up there. So if you want to know more about that, you can. But we're also going to be using CMake Visual Studio Code, and that's basically about it. And we're just going to say, all right, let's make a new file. Select the language. Okay, C++. So we're starting from scratch. All we got's a file. Let's just make like a main. Of course, if you're writing software, you want it to do something. So that's up to you to decide what you want to do with the software. We're just going to make a hello world just to get a base case up and going. And when we go to save it, I just press Control S. I need to give it a spot. And this is where we're going to start our project. So I'm going to go into one of my storage drives, into source, make a new folder, and call it YouTube VS Code C++. Okay, that's like a really long title. All right, go into there, name this file main rather than untitled one, and there we go. We now have a main. So what's next? Let's go to open a folder, and we're going to open this one we just created. That way it's going to give us the directory over here. You could do this in reverse order. You could create the folder, then go to open folder, and then start doing your stuff. However you want to do it's fine. Sip of coffee, fellas. If you'd like to support me and help buy me coffee, you can do that, and I would appreciate it. All right, here we go. Let's make a CMake list.txt. And with this, one of our extensions should kick in. So we're going to talk for a second about extensions. The only one I am using is the Microsoft CMake one. Here it is, CMake Tools by Microsoft. That's like the only extension I'm using. You can use more if you want, but I'm not going to make this real complicated and use a bunch of random ones. Just the Microsoft CMake tools, and I have IntelliSense from the Microsoft one as well. So we need to design a basic CMake, and we can just type it in CMake, no suggestions. So we want this to be detected as a CMake project. We're going to hit the command Control-Shift-P. And that brings up this whole command thing for Visual Studio Code. We're going to start typing in CMake. And there is a CMake quick start. So we're just going to click that. It's just going to fill out some code in advance for us. And we can choose what kit we want. We're just going to use release 64. And it says we already have a CMake file. Okay, apparently you can't do that when you already have a CMake file. I just want the starter code. And if you can't get this quick start to work, or for whatever reason, you can just manually type in all this stuff you're about to see. Making an executable. Okay. So here's all you really need. You need the minimum required. You need a project name. Version's optional. Cool, gives us a version. Testing if you want. We're not going to do testing right now. All right, and we have a CPack installer. But really all we want right now is this executable. The rest of this, we're not going to worry about. I have tutorials on all that stuff in my CMake series if you want to check that out. But we just want to get the base case going. All right, so we have this. We have a main. This should already work. But all CMake does is it configures your build. So it looks like it did that automatically. If it doesn't do it automatically, you need to go to your terminal and of course do the CMake commands that you need. But by default, this extension that I'm using, the Microsoft CMake tools, will do some of this stuff if you enable it. So we do know that once it's ready to be built, we can build it. And the way we build it is we use a compiler or we use the make file. So if we go to this build, we'll see that it has a bunch of Visual Studio stuff in it. Zero check, run test, package, nightly, experimental. I've turned off all this, so Dart, C-test. Yeah, we don't need to worry about all that. The only thing we actually want is this one right here. So this actually might be a bit overkill, using this whole start thing. But in any real project, you're probably going to want to use all those other features anyway, so it's fine. So we have this solution and we have this project. We basically need to compile those. There's a couple different ways you can do it. The first way is probably the default way. You want to open this directory. So right click on the file, reveal in Explorer, and you'll see it here. And you can open this up with Visual Studio and compile it. It's going to have all the settings from CMake that you specified. You can see it over here. I'm going to right click, build, let it build. See down here that it succeeded. Okay, now we can close this. close this. So we have our out file. It should be in debug. There it is. There's the executable. So how do you launch this? Well, you can launch it from your terminal just by doing, the dot slash. There we go. Yeah, you do need the dot. All right, so hello world. We ran it. But what if you just want a button? Well, you can do that. We got a little run and debug over here. Control Shift D, and it creates a JSON file when you try to run it. So let's go over this. Well, let's create our JSON, and it asks you what environment. We're going to say Windows because we're on Windows, and it gives us this default Windows launch. What we want to do here is basically make this go to our executable. Now, we can delete all this first text, but we have a workspace folder. That's the folder of our project. Then we know we went to build, and then in this case, debug. And the name of our executable was YouTube VS Code CP. So now it should launch the right one. Let's go back to the run and debug, hit the run button, and it launches in a terminal. Cool. And you can set up any amount of configs you want. If you want special debugging ones for GDB, or if you want to attach it to a process, you can do that. It's a little more advanced. We're not going to talk about that here. So what next? What if you update your program and you want to recompile, or maybe you want to see more options you can do with these configs? For example, in this console, you just delete this and hit Control Space to bring up this fill out thing. You'll see some options. Integrated terminal. It's going to launch it in the terminal down there. So we hit play and we'll see hello world right here in Visual Studio. So let's talk about one other thing, and that is just rebuilding and making changes. All right, let's just add let's just make a function here. Let's just put the hello world in it. So essentially the same program, just made some changes so that we have to recompile. We'll say from function, so it's obvious that it's using the new one that we built. And yeah, we should be able to just compile this and rerun it. But we can't just compile it from Visual Studio, right? We have to regenerate the CMake. Well, if we added or removed files, we'd have to regenerate the CMake. But mainly, we got to open up this project again and rebuild it with Visual Studio, right? And that can be a pain. So you reveal, open it, yada yada. Or you can just use your terminal here and go msbuild.exe, which is essentially the same thing the Visual Studio Community Edition does, and then path to this project, which is, let's use // and no leading one. Okay, that worked fine. So what that did was it just built our software. So you can just do it like that. You can just run msbuild, and it's going to build it with the config that you have specified in your CMake file, basically, whatever you generated that project with. And if you're using a different compiler and generating for like MingGW or Clang or something, well, you'll know those commands, but essentially you can do the same thing. Can you turn this into a button that builds? I am not entirely sure. I couldn't find a way. There's probably add-ons that do it, but I don't want to get into trying out a bunch of add-ons. All right, so this is for a console program. Hopefully this answers all your questions about how to get a C++ program up and going with Visual Studio Code, get the run button so that you can just launch it, and how to build it, how to set it up with some basic stuff. Let me know if you have any questions. And there's another version of this too, where if you're launching software that has no terminal, like windowed only, and that gets, I don't know. I'll do another version if this gets like 50 likes. So smash it and smash my channel up into the sky. Yeah, so subscribe for more cheesy puns and more code. See you guys next time. Like and subscribe so I know to keep making these kind of videos.